Did y'all see that white snow? Our mountains don't always have to look like this. But wouldn't it be wonderful if they look like this more often?
Yep.
Have you been reflecting on this question over the time of our group's presentation? Hopefully today, during the reception, when you can purchase jewelry from a local jewelry maker who's been part of our audience all day, I want to encourage y'all to come to the reception and continue to have conversations about possibility. What I've learned is that my intention is often to evoke something new and different, if nothing else in me, hopefully in each of you, hopefully in an energy flow that moves from person to person and that builds what becomes the energy that sustains us through what you've heard about today. I also know, and had to look up the word provoke because I was using it incorrectly, and I was saying to folks that my intention is to provoke. My intention is not to provoke, but sometimes the things that I say, and that I might say in the next couple of minutes, which with the intention that you want to show up to the reception, may be that I've provoked something. I want that to be okay too. Something that rises that you think, oh my gosh, did she really say that? My training and expertise, so my name is Heidi Steltzer, my training and expertise has been for 30 years in what Dylan referred to as the hard sciences, which are often actually pretty easy compared to a lot of other things. I loved certainty. I loved knowing that my responsibility was to look at things and use tools to measure them. In places like this, guesses, where am I? Anybody know? Maybe, maybe not. How far have you traveled? It's the Brooks Range. Woo! So I started my career here in Colorado, high mountain science, wanting to understand how high mountain ecosystems worked. And I met thunder, and I met lightning, and I met fog and cold. It was the 90s. Mackenzie, you talked about your first year, 2009, biggest set of dust storms in the San Juans. My first year of graduate school was 1995. It was one of the biggest snow years of the 90s, and most of the 90s were big snow years, especially here. I was living in the Front Range, wishing that I could study the San Juan Mountains, but I started grad school at 22 years old, and I had no idea how to work at a location that had no field stations. Where and how, as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, 24-year-old, would I build the relationships with the people who manage the land to make all of the choices about how I'd plan a site? So I did the easy thing. I worked in the Front Range Mountains on Niwot Ridge, that's part of Indian Peaks. And I fell in love with the San Juan Mountains, and this is where I wanted to work. And the next stop before you come to the San Juan Mountains is, of course, the Brooks Range, right? You gotta go there before you come here to truly appreciate here. And in the Brooks Range, I lived in a tent. And my two staff people lived in a tent. And we lived a 30-minute flight out of Kotzebue. Raise your hands if you know where Kotzebue is. Nice, I figured some folks did, and I heard Mackenzie talking about it yesterday. So Kotzebue is on the Chukchi Sea. It's an indigenous community, the Inupiaq. And this is another crowd pleaser. Oh my gosh, local radio, right? In these kind of regions, including in our region, so local public radio. So we were collecting water to determine the pH, the chemistry, the nutrient content of the water from a watershed in these mountains that you can see, to understand if more trees grow in tundra, because that's been happening and it's accelerating, do we see a shift in water chemistry? But the really exciting stories were what was going on in the region, and they parallel what we're talking about here today. So we'd sit in a tent with all the lab equipment that we needed to titrate water, listening on what's the radio that you listen to when you're out in the field and you don't have good antenna? Satellite? Not satellite, I don't know. Anyway, it was a way that we could listen to radio in the middle of nowhere. And everybody out there listens to radio in the middle of nowhere. And the community of Kotzebue and the region was debating the Red Dog Mine. And I think this was coming up in the conversations yesterday among the problem solvers. The Red Dog Mine is mining lead and mercury in a remote tundra region, and they drive it out from the mine on a road to the sea and then ship it out from there. The elders in the community, the executives from the Minnesota-based mining company, and community members were in dialogue trying to decide, should the dump trucks full of all of this material be covered and be required to be covered, or not be covered? Because they could cover them. But it costs money, and it's inefficient. And I sat there, titrating water, thinking, how could you not do this? It's so simple. And listen to what the elders are saying. Because the voices that resonated with me, the voices that held meaning, were not the voices sharing a lot of data about what could and couldn't work and what could be efficient and how much money could be made. Nor were they the voices of how easy it would be for the people with the most power, influential power, because the economic vitality of a remote remote community that isn't a mining town depends on the money that comes in from the local mine. A lot of people were employed by the local mine. Not a lot of people were employed to titrate water samples out in the tundra. And it was so clear that the elders were not going to be listened to. So one of my questions with this is, how do we shift all of that? How do we shift? Oh, that's good. Siri wants to talk to me. How do we shift from listening to the voices we've been listening to the voices we've been listening to in ourselves too, to new voices in ourselves, in the wise folks of our world? And I've been a professor at Fort Lewis for 15 years. I recently resigned because this is what I'm doing full time now. But the wise voices in our world may be the Gen Zers. Gen Z's in the house. They're all right here in a row. I think they're up there too. They are the folks who are willing to do the not outrageous and the outrageous, and to throw everything at it. The team of women you just heard from, so many of our conversations the past 4 or 5 months have been about what would it be like if we could. And it's been beautiful to get to sit in that space. What if we could have a network of field steward stations across the region, in dry places with ecosystems that are already bare, and in wet places? Yeah, y'all, Cortez was the wet part of the world that we were looking at. So that's where this site would sit. And what is it like for all of that change to happen so that we can move into something new and different? One of the things that I like to say a lot is that we are headed somewhere good. We are headed somewhere good. In order for good to come about, we need to say that, we need to believe it, and we need to show up for it to take place and happen. How long we live in the dark how deep the dark gets, and many of us experience the dark at some point in our lives, and our earth is experiencing some dark right now. It really depends on the choices we make in every moment, without looking back and sitting in the past, but in each moment thinking, who do I want to be? How do I want to be? Can I show up as my whole true self? The word interdisciplinary has been used today. So playing in all the fields, right? It's kind of fun. I've also heard it talked about as transdisciplinary. Both of those are wonderful. For me, the word I like to use is whole. W-H-O-L-E. We are meant to show up as our whole and holy sacred selves, and show up in relationship to one another in the earth in ways we all know how to, but we are often told we can't. So we have to take risks in a world that wants only a part of me, only wants me to put on my scientist hat. One of the questions that I'll ask you right now is, do I sound like a scientist in what I've been saying? Maybe a little and maybe a little not. I started to play with what else is possible. Oop,
You just gotta touch it.
And I decided that what I've been living into my whole life, especially the 30 years that I've been doing the not hard sciences, is theology. So I'm in theology school now. I didn't know what the word was last year in April when I decided to apply. I haven't been in school since I got my PhD when I was 27. And I know what it's like to be the professor, and it was really scary, hugely scary to apply, be paying money for school, and to step back into a space of what could I learn that I didn't know yet. Theology comes from the Greek, and it's words about God, words about source, words about the creator, words about spirit, words about that energy that we can feel in a room that connects us all and that connects us to the earth. It is the science of relationship. And how many times have you heard the word relationship today? It's been a lot. It's been incredible. I, in my introductory theology class, put Earth in front of theology. Sorry, I'm blocking that. Earth's there because she's been my teacher the whole time. Eco-theology might be what we're talking about here, but it doesn't feel and resonate with me the right way. So Earth is what I talk about. Where and how can we learn from the earth how to renew our relationship with ourselves and with one another? I own 4 acres of land that you just heard about. It needs some love. It's a good place to practice, learn, and be part of the experiment, not just because of what we do to the land, but because of how we gather, connect, and what we talk about for relationship with one another. And what I decided as part of this whole adventure is that it's time to share all that we know. All that we know because we can see it and measure it and put it in a graph. All that we know because we can feel it and intuit it, and I heard a lot of intuition as part of the San Luis Valley talk. And know that the seeds of ancient wisdom are planted in every single one of us. Every single one of us and every part of our earth has ancient wisdom in it. And can we speak to that wisdom in ways that I don't know how to put in a scientific journal article? But I do know that it fits in a world of dialogue over reception, conversation and relationship,